Who is the absolutely perfect one in the Middle Kingdom? When he stamps his foot, mountains crumble. Nothing is impossible for him, and he scatters fragments of mountains throughout the area. Crystals hidden in the mountains come to the surface and blind with their bright light. Giants who have been sleeping for hundreds of years wake up and are awakened by the rumble of stones. But even a giant can't control him. When he jumps, heaven is within his reach. He can attack the biggest monster. His attack will be sudden. Bright flashes of white, blue, and lilac emanate from it. He throws clouds of power into the monster's face, and the monster can do nothing to oppose his power. When he swings his sword, the tide begins to rise in the seas and oceans. Nothing can stop his mad rush, and he can barely be distinguished in the multicolored flashes of power that he emits. Millions of sentient beings of the heavenly demon sect. The stone giant's head falls from his shoulders, because his will is the will of God. But such a battle is difficult even for him, and it seems to him that he has been fighting for many, many years. He's tired and thinks it's time to end this. The severed head tells him that if he killed her, he will enter the eternal abyss of the underworld, and asks, is he going to die with her? The demon replies that he will solve complex issues, step by step, and he will begin by finishing the work he started. The head asks if he really has such intentions, and this is the reason that he lost. Without saying a word, the Heavenly Lord swings his sword and plunges it straight into the giant's head. A bright flash illuminates the entire space. Soon everything will be over. The Heavenly Lord is pleased with his victory. He stands shrouded in rays of power and celebrates his victory. He hears a voice that says, "Go first. Imperial Palace of the Ming Dynasty, Forbidden City." Initially, Gyeongchun Palace was supposed to be the most luxurious and massive building on the palace grounds, because it was the palace of the Son of Heaven, the Emperor. However, this is not reality. The Heavenly God Palace boasts a much larger and more magnificent presence compared to the Gyeongcheon Palace. This meant that the master of the court of the Heavenly God held a higher position than the emperor in the great Ming Empire. Master of the Heavenly God Court, leader of the Heavenly Demon Sect, Jin Husen, absolute ruler with enormous power in the Central Plains. He is often very bored and does not know what to do. He thinks he must be going crazy and tries to combine martial arts to enjoy a life filled with wealth and honor. He does not want to take on the role of sect leader and believes that he should not devote himself to a new cult. He doesn't want to do all this so much that he regrets that he was born, and his courtiers forbid him to loudly express his dissatisfaction because his subordinates listen to him. Shin Jushin, a disciple of the Heavenly Demon Sect, believes that a ruler should always maintain his integrity. Jin Yu-sung wonders if Shin Jushin is standing behind him to protect him. Of course, yes, the student answers. Jin thinks about how Shin Jushin can protect him. A tiger cannot protect a dragon. Does no one understand this? He laughs at the student and says how can he protect him if Jin freely defeats the student? To which Shin replies that he knows about his weakness, however. In a difficult situation, he can die for his master. Well, when will the difficult situation begin? Jin asks. He really wants this situation to happen as soon as possible. He's bored. He regrets that their kingdom does not have a secret force that is trying to overthrow the Heavenly Demon Sect, and which is hiding in the darkness, or external enemies who prepared and carried out the invasion, or the uprising of those who refuse to recognize the main lord because he is a stranger. Shin Jushin replies to all this that he took care of everyone who plotted the plot, and as for the external invasion, his subordinates in the western regions are already conducting an investigation. Shin Jushin angrily tells his emperor that he has heard about the danger coming from the elders, and he is going to eliminate them all. Jean Husan objects, and does not want to cause any trouble to the elderly. But Shin Jushin continues to say that there is a possibility that the elders may sow dissatisfaction, and he will personally kill them all. Jin Yu-sung asks him not to do this because he feels sorry for the elderly. Van leans over the genie and hisses that then he will appoint a special surveillance team, and on days when there is even a hint of suspicion. The genie sadly thinks that now, because of him, elderly innocent people are now under surveillance. Jin looks out the window with hope and says that there is a man standing at the main gate. He hopes that this is an experienced killer, and then there will be a reason to fight. Van replies that no murderer will come through the main gate. A man enters the room where the genie is, opens his mouth and starts yelling, "Let the heavenly demon rule the world." After that, he falls to his knees and hits his head on the floor. This is Sangram, the main killer of the celestial sect, and Jin told him many times to never behave like that. He was with Jushin, and now Jin is wondering, what success is with Jushin? Is he stronger now? And Jin doesn't understand. Why pay attention to him then? Assassin continues to bang his head on the floor and shouts that he is guilty and deserves to die. Jin asks if he really wants to die, and Assassin says not really. Jin doesn't understand why he needs to lie, or is the assassin mocking him right now? Then Jin gets down to business and wants to know how his colleagues behaved in the Western region. He heard that the Western region has firearms and technology much more advanced than the Ming dynasty. If there are skilled martial artists in the Central Plains, is it true that in the Western region there are people who practice magic known as wizards? And the genie wonders how strong they are. Jean believes that if there is a formidable enemy, then Jun cannot simply remain the guardian of the Central Plains. And he wonders, are these wizards incredibly strong? And do you need to fight them? The assassin doesn't know how to say it. He stammers. But Jin demands to forget all formalities and say everything quickly. Fan confirms the owner's wish and asks the assassin to speak without formalities. Sangrim, in response to this, begins to shout loudly that his entire trip was a living hell. Jin asks, have you managed to subdue 70% of the wizards? And how often did he have to fight? Sangrim responds to this, that since they were considered an evil force, he refrained as much as possible from making large numbers of victims. The abilities of wizards are excellent, but magic developed with them more as a skill than as a military technique. For example, they knew how to do things like make rain, or communicate at a distance. This news caused Jin to burst into fits of laughter. Sangrim showed his master the book and the ruby. He said that he received this mysterious item from the leader of the Western Region Mage faction. According to the magicians, they claim that their ultimate goal is alchemy. What is alchemy? And Sangrim explained to him that it is a method of combining low-level materials to create high-level materials, like turning stones into gold. Jin remembered that street scammers were doing this, but Assassin assured him that there were real successful cases. It is said that the ultimate goal of alchemy is to enter the higher realm, and this book contains methods, and the gem is one of the ingredients. Jin asks what the higher realms are, and Wang reminds them that it's something like the legendary world of martial arts. Assassin says that the messenger Mok came with him, and we need to listen to him. Mulder, a representative of the Mage Corps from the Western region, enters the room. He is asked if he can create what is described in this book, something made in a higher realm. Mulder replies that this is possible in theory, but impossible in reality. Jean is surprised that Mulder learned their language so quickly. Mulder replies that there is a method that makes it very easy to learn foreign languages, says that the wizards really advanced in technology. He thought that they lost Sangri to him because they were weak. He thinks that magic is a truly formidable force, and he can't believe that Mulder perfectly uses such magical power within himself. He asks Mulder, why is it impossible to practically produce jewelry if it is theoretically ideal? Mulder replies that there is no energy to activate the gate. Mulder explains that the gate opens the pleasure chamber, and Jean can think of life energy. Jin replies that there will be no problem with that. Wang says there are women practicing. These are creatures that seduce men and collect yang energy through absorption techniques. Jin really wants to meet these women, but Wang advises him to keep his composure because there are many eyes on him. Jean asks Mulder why he insists on performing techniques that are impossible to perform. Is there really something very valuable in this? Mulder replies that there is one possibility. According to records about 100 years ago, one day the triplets tried to open the gate. They say that there was a time when they dissipated the magical energy and the gate was half open. The total energy needed to open the gate can be obtained if several magicians gather together. The problem is that pure magic power is required, but each person has a different nature of magic power. Jin understands that the energy cannot mix due to the different nature of the magical power. And Mulder replies that if there were 5 master wizards, it might be possible. Jean thinks that Mulder needs enormous magical power to open the gate, and it is impossible for one person to wield it. Then he turns to Ivan, and he listens carefully to his master. Jin asks Ivan to mentally delete everyone who is near them within a radius of 100 yards. Van directs his mental energy and people begin to leave. The palace becomes empty very quickly. Van reports that everyone is left. Then Jean says that only Jean and Mulder are left within a 100-yard radius. Mulder is surprised that this man deleted all the people right now. Did you say it's far? Jean asks Mulder. Mulder decides it's some kind of joke, but agrees it's too far off. Jean advises Mulder to look closely at the amount of energy he has. Mulder looks attentively and does not understand how one person can accumulate such enormous magical power. He thinks that if he released such great power, his body would simply explode. Jin says that at some point, having too much inner strength becomes uncomfortable. Moreover, his inner strength does not dissipate naturally because the binding force is too strong, so he usually hides it well. Otherwise, ordinary people die. Jean asks if Mulder thinks this energy will be enough to open the gate. Mulder is very surprised and thinks that before releasing his power, Jean sealed the magical power and what appeared was just remnants after sealing. He's very surprised by what power lies in the jinn. He addresses the genie, calling him the leader of the sect, and agrees that his energy is enough. Jean asks why Mulder suddenly started calling him a cult leader. Usually mages call him a supreme being. Mulder says he wants to devote himself to the Sky Demon sect. He believes that if someone has reached the maximum level, then how can Mulder choose a different path and a different leader? The genie doesn't like it very much, and Mulder is surprised to see that he is sitting in a huge room alone. Mulder remembers that he heard in legends that people could disappear so suddenly. 1 year later, an event takes place in the backyard of the Heavenly God's palace. Mulder finished the gate. He did it together with the magicians of the Magic Association. But all that Jin sees is a precious stone. He does not understand how this stone can be a gate. Mulder explains that the closed gates are invisible, and a massive altar was created underground. Jin says that he feels a strange energy that comes from this gem. He feels a mixture of positive and negative energy. And now he asks Mulder what should he do. Mulder replies that he needs to channel his inner power into the gem. Jin tells everyone to move away because the experiment could be dangerous, and touches the stone. Under his hand, the stone begins to glow with a bright light. Genie is enveloped by waves of enormous power, and a bright radiance opens ahead. Jin thinks that when he puts in so much inner strength, even iron breaks into pieces. But this jewel didn't even tremble. His pride is hurt by the fact that he cannot handle the stone. He strengthens his energy, releases it out. People who watch from afar what is happening spread protective spells to avoid injury from this flow of power. They can't believe it, but the supreme being of the Central Plains becomes like the legendary dragon. The stone cannot withstand such a flow of energy. Fractures run along it. A huge stream of energy with which the stone explodes breaks through the walls. Energy poured in like a stream, flooding the palace and the courtyard and everything around. People don't believe their own eyes. They are terrified, speechless in amazement. And finally, success. The gate is completed. The one who completed them is truly the leader of the sect. The genie listens with pleasure to the surprised shouts of people that the sect of heavenly demons really rules the world. There are heated debates in the emperor's palace. Sangram is already getting ready to go on a hike and tells Jin that he will go to the gate first. Jin doesn't understand why Sangram will go first, but he tells him that he firmly believes that there is another civilization beyond the gates. Jin thinks that this may be true, but beyond the gates it can be dangerous. He offers to find other candidates who will be the first to go to the gate. Sungrim indignantly states that he became bored after returning from the western region, and he really wants new adventures. He really asks to be allowed to go first so that he can have a great time. Sangri is confident that if something dangerous happens, the sect leader will come and save him. It's just like training in a survival camp. Jin finally agrees and wishes Sangrim a quick and safe return. The members and disciples of the Heavenly Demon sect respected Sangrim for his modesty, and the fact that he never abused his power. He was one of the 3 members of the Heavenly Demon sect who studied with the genie at the survival camp. Without thinking about anything, he entered the gate, and Jin really hoped that he would return safely. But 10 years passed and Sangrin did not return back. The Sky Demon sect tried to gather additional reinforcements to save Sangrim, but Jin was against it. If it's so dangerous behind the gate, then it's pointless to gather people weaker in martial arts than Sangrin. So Jin forbade it to his subjects. After Sangrim left, Jin often remembered him, how they fought together, laughed together and cried together. Another 80 years passed without any news from the other side. Jin still continued to sit alone and wait. Now his descendants lead the Heavenly Demon sect. He was left in this empty heavenly court without any close friends. He achieved immortality and returned to a young body with a rejuvenation technique. But it did not bring him joy in his loneliness. One day Jim was wondering what kind of tombstone he would have, and he could not stand the loneliness, and deciding to stop everything, he stepped through the gate. On this day, the Heavenly Palace lost its owner. Seoul Station, South Korea. Winter. People hear someone cough and turn around. In front of them stands a man who talks about how good it is to arrive in the new world. This is Jin Yu-sung, who is surprised how heavy the air is in this place, which is why he coughs all the time. He is wondering if there is a decent guest house here for relaxation, and he thinks that he should go to a place where he will feel a lot of human energy. Jean Husson sees the entrance to some room. He does not know that this is the entrance to the subway. He goes inside and looks around. It seems to him that he is in a magnificent and spacious guest house. There are homeless people sleeping on the floor, covered with blankets and newspapers, but the genie thinks that these are the highest quality bed linens. All the homeless people are looking at him. Jin thinks that he used to receive great respect from people, and now he is met with wary eyes. This is how he felt before he became the leader of the Heavenly Demon sect. One of the homeless people squats down in front of the Jin, while the other two stand behind. The homeless man looks at Jean and says something, but Jean doesn't understand a word. Jean Husson understands that you need to somehow establish contact and understand each other in order to talk. Then he remembers that Mulder once told him about the technique of learning a foreign language. He thinks that he needs to use this magic that Mulder taught him. The homeless man hangs from the flow of magical power. Jin asks him a question if he is beginning to understand him, but the homeless man still hangs there and doesn't say a word. Jin Yusung starts to get angry and yells at the homeless man. Is he really ignoring him now? The homeless man comes to his senses and finally asks Jin where he is from and what city he came from. Jin asks if this is really Korea, but the homeless man doesn't understand. What does the name of the country have to do with it? Then Jin asks to find him a place to sleep. The man tells the genie that he understands that the young man is just as homeless as they are. He seems to be called Kwan Hyung. Jin says that he has lived for 100 years and he is a supermaster. Kwan Hyung begins to understand why this young man is homeless, and he was probably hit on the head a lot. He approaches the main one and asks him, "Are there any empty seats?" The main one, whose name is Kim, answers that there are still some left and why does he need it. Kwan Hyung explains that Jin has nowhere to stay for the night. Kim is surprised by this. Kim asks if Jin is a cosplayer, and Kwan Hyung shows him that the guy is not all at home. At this time, Jin uses his language learning magic on the homeless, and hopes that if he uses it on a large number of people, he will be able to better understand what is happening. Kim replies that people should help each other, and invites Jin to sit next to her. Jin tries to speak in a language unfamiliar to him, and is not very good at it. Kwan Hyung thinks that he is pretending and shouts that no one will mess with him here. Kim advises the background to stop worrying about this guy, and invites the genie into her circle. He is interested in Jin's health, because he hears him coughing. Jin says he's fine, just feeling a little dizzy. He remembers what he was told about the magic of language learning, that it is very tiring, especially if you use it on 5 people. Jin's problem is not that he is dizzy, but that his inner strength has reached its limit. He lost a lot of power just by going through the gate. He remembers the giant's head that told him, "Let's see if I can close this door." He thinks about what the giant knew when he said these words. Kim tells the young man that his name is Kim Inchan, and asks his name. He is uncomfortable telling strangers his real name, and he says that his name is Wang Hu. Kim says that this name sounds Chinese, and asks how old the young man is. Jin replies that he stopped counting when he turned 100 years old. Kim asks if he is sure about this, and Jin replies that this is not a joke. Kim thinks that the guy he met is interesting, and he feels very sorry for him. He pours him a drink, and Jin says that he has never drunk alcohol. Jin drinks a glass in one gulp, and is completely delighted, because he has never had the opportunity to drink such a sweet and refreshing drink. Kim watches the guy, and cannot understand what is wrong with him. Jin continues to drink with the homeless, and tells them that this drink is probably one of the best there is. The tramps are surprised because this is the cheapest swill you can buy. Jin asks the homeless how they make money, if they think they can drink more delicious alcohol if they have more money. The tramps answer him that if they knew how to make money, they wouldn't be sitting here. One of the tramps tells the genie that the best way to make money is to go to the gate and wake up. Another adds that one guy at Yongsan Station woke up a while ago, and now he has a bunch of foreign cars. Jin asks Kim, what gate are we talking about? Is there really a gate in this world too? Kim replies that there is a gate, but who made it? Not a single person on Earth knows. Jin can't figure out if this is the same gate as his, or a different one. Kim asks, why doesn't Wang Hu know all this information about the world? Does he really not remember his life before now? Jin continues to drink vodka and replies that it is a very long story. However, Kim insists that Jin tell him everything. Jin sits back and begins the story. He was the Prince of Korea. From this news, Kim choked on vodka. Jin continued to say that he was the youngest and was very far from the throne. But since he respected his older brother very much, he lived his life without any resentment. One year the soldiers rebelled and usurped the royal power. Jin's brother was killed. Jin crossed the Ming border alone, with the help of several servants, but they were captured and sold as slaves to mountain arsonists. Jin could not understand whether it was luck or failure at that moment. He was sent to a fighting school where if you didn't kill your partner, you didn't get dinner. In the Ming dynasty, there was a situation where the ruling and opposition factions united in order to resist a demonic cult. The place where Jin was sold was the secret organization of Chan Domueng, Extinction Rebellion. He was raised there as a weapon of slaughter to end the war against the demonic cult. The battle was brutal, and the battlefield became a site of massive destruction. But after a few years, other problems arose. The demonic cult ended in a funny way. Their leader died during his anniversary, and the clan collapsed due to internal strife. Now that the demonic cult was destroyed, the weapon that was created from the genie was not needed to destroy the cult. They felt that Jin was too strong to keep him alive, and they decided to destroy their weapons rather than risk leaving him alive, and they came to him with the intention of killing. But Jean Hussein decided not to accept such a fate, but to stand up and fight. He and 13 of his comrades fled the clan and lived together. They constantly ran away and fought for their lives, and in the end only 3 survived. Sangrim, Wang Hujin Yusung, and Ivan. All 3 wanted the ruling faction together. They sharpened their blades by absorbing what was left of the demon cult. This was the birth of the cult of heavenly demons who ruled the Ming dynasty and all of Morim. This is how Jin ended his story, and noted that his new friends were so touched that they could not say a word. The homeless listened to the story with interest and thought that their new acquaintance was retelling some new novel by a fashionable writer. One of the homeless people asked the genie to continue because he had read novels about martial arts, but he had never read such stories. He was wondering if the celestial demon cult took revenge on the ruling faction, and how strong was the main character. Jin shouted that this was not a martial arts novel. He was telling them about times of struggle and survival. One day the homeless man reminded the genie that if he liked vodka, then he would make him a drink that he would like even more. He took out a bottle of beer and said that vodka with beer is the best drink you can have. After that, the homeless man hoped that Jean would definitely tell them the continuation of his story. Vodka and beer poured into the glass, and the Jin was looking forward to trying a new drink. When he drank this cocktail, he really liked it. The place where the homeless were sitting was illuminated with bright light. Kim shouted that they gave their new acquaintance a drink. And why is there a breakthrough at the gate now? A bright flash lit up the entire area. Stones fell from the sky. Everything was drowned in a pink haze. Jin wondered what kind of place he ended up in, and the people who were sitting next to him also ended up here with him. Jin noted that everything here seems artificial. There are no natural objects. The homeless people who were transported by the Jin could not come to their senses, and did not understand what was happening and where they were. "Isn't this a gate?" asked one of them. Suddenly people noticed that someone was flying in the air. Jin was surprised that someone in this world knows how to use levitation. A figure came down from heaven and said that it was very nice to see everyone here. It was the DC manager of this mission. Dick continued that he wanted to sincerely congratulate the people who elected the gate. SG Gate Security Seoul Branch Command and Control Office. Workers give a report on all gel figures. There is no anomaly in the gel figures in various areas. They report to Manager Jihu. But in the jungle, a gel figure of the 9th level is discovered, and the monitor shows danger. Panic grows in the room. The director is informed that the gel level at Seoul Station has exceeded 9. The director does not understand how this could happen, because it means that the gate has been broken through. The manager replies that this did not happen a minute ago, but the sensors suddenly detected it. This is Seoul Station. The director is finding out who is currently closest to Seoul Station. The system reports that the awakened class, Asong Changsu, lives near the station. The director orders to call the awakened one right now and tell him to go to the gate point. He asks his subordinates what the rating of the gate is. They answer him that it is either E rank or D rank. Jihu thinks that if the gate is not cleaned in time, it will release a huge amount of energy and explode. The power of the explosion depends on the gate rating and progress. If this gate explodes, important roads near Seoul Station will be destroyed. All lines, as well as railways to the airport, will be paralyzed. Much worse if it is a rank D gate, then nearby businesses and the city center can be turned to ashes. Those most affected by the explosion will be the homeless, station employees, and passers-by in the area. Yes, explosion. There are 4 minutes left and Son Shansu may not have time. The director is informed that the gate is completed and he can only pray to God. At this time, the figure who descended to the people informs them that they have been chosen by the gate, and the current number of participants is now 15,214. One of the people shouts that he does not want to participate in anything and is indignant at what the security service is doing. The figure suggests that from now on, people need to move forward, join forces, and survive for 7 days. The system scan begins. After the system scan, the figure prompts people to open their inventory and view their status window. There will be a skills window in the system window. Level up tabs and a statistics distribution window will also be available. Kim says that civilians rarely find themselves in such circumstances. The system window gives him information. Kim and Chun, level 1, endurance 12, strength 13, agility 4, explosive power 9, speed 6, regeneration 3, physical resistance 13, magic resistance 0. There are no items yet. He can select his preferred item from the inventory. There are no skills, and not a single rune was used for blessing. Kim reads about her skills, and realizes that they are slightly higher than the average person. Jin examines what appeared near him and cannot figure out how to use it. There are some strange figures in front of him. Then he looks up at the rising figure and shouts to her for the purple guy to come down and help her figure it out. Kim is shocked and closes Jin's mouth, and everyone around him shouts at him to be quiet. Kim shouts that Jin should not dare to provoke the manager and asks that Jin cannot read his data. But Jin doesn't listen to anyone and shouts for the purple scoundrel to come down immediately. The manager says that within 10 minutes, you need to select a weapon from the inventory, and after 30 minutes the attacks will begin, and he wishes people all the best in these 7 days. He disappears, and people breathe a sigh of relief. And Kim tells Jin that if he is going to do something stupid, he should do it away from everyone. Everyone begins to urgently look for weapons in their inventory. The genie looks into his system window, which tells him that he is given only 10 minutes to choose a weapon. Jin chooses a sword, but he doesn't understand why he needs a sword. And the system says that he chose a weapon for himself. Kim asks why Jin called the manager, and he replies that he wanted to ask him something. Kim wonders if this guy is really completely crazy. He takes him by the hand and drags him along. He says that the genie needs to stay next to him. This is the only way to survive. Some people think that you shouldn't take the genie with you, but Kim might allow me to just let the guy die. Jin tells Kim Enciano not to worry, because he will always be able to protect him. And Kim is sure that there is a crazy person next to him. Kim asks where Jin's weapon is, and Jin replies that he doesn't need it. Kim wants to give one of her sticks to Jin, but Jin flatly refuses. The system lets you know that the first day's attack is about to begin, and Kim insists that Jin arm himself. Jin looks at the field filled with pink light, and they see some kind of dust appearing out of nowhere. It seems to him that 500 people are moving towards them, but when the attackers run closer, he realizes that these are not people. Each weight is more than 120 kilograms. Mass speed. They easily outperform humans in any category. Kim suggests that these are chimpanzees, and his friend says that they are huge in size, and if they stood on their feet, they could be 3 or 4 m in height. People are going to fight and cheer themselves up by shouting that this is just a bunch of monkeys. People gather in groups. Jin stands with a stick on his shoulder and thinks that the muscles of these monsters are much stronger than human muscles, and we need to figure out how to destroy all these monkeys. Kim calls Jin, who is about to leave the group, and shouts to him that only in the group can he survive. But Jin does not pay attention to the fact that they are shouting at him from behind, and goes towards the moving cloud of predatory monkeys. The flock runs, sweeping away everything in its path, and a genie appears on its way, shrouded in a blue cloud of power. Let me extend the doctrine of the celestial demon cult to these boorish creatures, says Jin. Among the monster monkeys, suddenly some kind of movement begins. An explosion is heard and many monkeys fly up and begin to bleed. People who stand in the distance do not understand anything what is happening. Monkeys' eyes begin to glow with blue fire. They don't understand who is in front of them. In the place where the man had just stood, who turned out to be easy prey, there is a huge crater. Suddenly from somewhere above, a voice is heard that says that the first doctrine is the teaching of a heavenly demonic cult, says that you need to worship the heavenly gods. This is all Jin says and stands on the head of the leader of the pack. He gracefully jumps off the monkey and goes on to say that he represents the physical abilities of monkeys, and now he invites the whole flock to see how they cope with him. Jin releases enormous amounts of energy, which hits the sky with a blue stream. The monkeys look at it in horror. They have never had to deal with this. With this energy, Gina cuts the leader of the monkeys in half and the rest of the flock runs away in horror. In the system window, the message "Level Increased" lights up. First level awakened protection system in operation. The following message appears in the system window. After the next increase in level, the protection system stops functioning and pauses. The entire herd froze, and Jin understands that everything happened because the system affected the attack and stopped. The system requires the genie to distribute his 10 points within 10 seconds, otherwise they will be distributed randomly. Jin doesn't understand what he should do. The system continues to display messages. A scanning error has occurred. It is impossible to evaluate the target's ability value. The scan was unsuccessful for an unknown reason. The player will be given a level 1 ability value until the scanning system starts working normally. After installation, the statistics obtained when increasing the level will be applied again. The name Jean Husson appears in the statistics window, but all parameters of strength, agility, and endurance are questionable. The next message from the system says that the points are not distributed and are now distributed randomly. 4 points for strength, 4 points for endurance, and 2 points for durability. Jin realizes that he has now become awakened, as these people whom he considered crazy said. His strength is growing. When he defeated the monster at the gate, He awakened and his level increased. The more people win, the stronger and better they become as players. Jin thinks that this is useless to him. The martial arts that he has accumulated are not just physical strength. The only thing that can awaken is himself. However, his energy is as gentle as nature itself, and his strength can be everything that surrounds him. The system signals that a fatal error has occurred, and Jin holds in his hands a huge ball emanating blue power and advises not to reject it. The system reports that points cannot be distributed due to an unknown error, and writes that the player's level has returned to 1. The awakened first-level defense system will be disabled, the system reports, and the monkey's eyes will begin to glow with blue fire again. The system reports that the attack pause action will be cancelled, and the monkeys will rush to kill the person standing in their way. Jean Husson moves at great speed and repels the attack of monkeys. The system finally goes crazy and either increases the player's level, then screams about an error, then returns the player to level 1 again, then returns the player to level 1 again. Jean Husson rejoices that by killing just 4 monkeys, you can enrich yourself with inner experience. The monkeys stopped and were afraid to approach this abnormal thing. But Jean Husson is not going to interrupt the battle so quickly and chases after the monkeys. People cannot see what is happening behind the thick cloud of dust. They are frozen in anticipation. The word system writes in the window about the incredible first achievement. The player single-handedly killed 100 warriors. The player was given the nightmare of the Nuka tribe rune of level C. With this rune, during battles the player receives a 30% increase in all characteristics. Only 1 player was awarded the first achievement. You can use up to 10 runes. The player decides whether to use a rune or not. The system asks the player if he wants to accept the rune. Jing Yusun refuses the rune. The system windows block his entire view and this greatly irritates him. He starts waving his arms to knock down all these windows and shouts that he won't use it. He doesn't need all these screens. Let them go. The system does not give up. It writes that the player showed an incredible game. The system is delighted and offers him to increase his chance of survival. Thanks to the feat of the prestige player, the passage of the first wave will be provided exclusively to the player. Jin Yusung is angry. He doesn't need such attention. He doesn't need gifts from the system. But the system activates the hidden part. The player is given a rune cone that takes care of humanity from the rank. Guardian of a person of rank Myth C, the player receives a 30% increase in all characteristics. Jean Husson thinks that this acquisition will help him increase the number of monsters killed, and accepts this award. People watching all this are very happy, and that among them there is such a strong player, and they all survived. Kim is very glad that they have an awakened one with them. But there is one problem. If he repels all attacks on his own, then none of the people will be able to awaken when they leave the gate. People agree that they need to wake up and live in wealth, like that guy Zhang from Yongsan Station. Kim screams that they can all die, so it's better to stay alive than dead awakened. But the man interrupts Kim and tells him not to worry, period. They think that it's hard for this guy to fight all the time alone, and people need to help him. Jin says that he has no reason to stop the fight that he won with his own hands, but he does not mind if the others become awakened. Jin stands among a huge number of killed monkeys and is very pleased with his success. He looks at the bodies of the monkeys and does not understand that there is actually some energy that comes out of their bodies. It looks like they are melting. The system again does not leave the guy alone and tells him that the warrior's painting tooth is highly resistant to external forces and is a durable material used in the production of weapons. It is possible to obtain Berserker's potion to increase combat power. Jin is very annoyed and does not know how to get rid of these intrusive Soviets of the system. He wants to know if there is any way to get rid of this nightmare. The system informs that the player can reset the notification functions if he wishes. Kim Yi approaches Jin Yusung and tells him that awakening leads to nothing, and that's why he told Jin to stay by his side and not get into battle. But Jin replies that sometimes people risk their lives for the sake of ambition. Jin starts laughing and tells Kim and Chano that he promised to save him and saved him. Kim asks again how old Jin is, and Jin replies that he hasn't counted since he turned 100 and therefore doesn't know. Kim asks again, is it true that Jin called himself the Prince of Korea? And Jin confirms this. Kim thinks that it's incredible that Jin has such a huge power. But how is it possible that he woke up but still remains crazy? Gina complains that he is very hungry, and Kim replies that food and other survival items should be in his inventory. At this time, one of the crowd of people apologizes to the awakened genie. The man asks what should they do now. Jin wonders why they ask him this, and says that he will eat all the meat that he prepared for lunch himself. The man does not understand what kind of meat the awakened one is talking about, and Jin explains that these are monsters that he will eat. One of the crowd of people raises his hand and says that he is a government employee who works at the Seoul subway station, so he knows the security department rules for working with the gate. If civilians are involved, won't awakening lead to an increase in their survivability? Jin frowns and replies that he is not awakened at all. The man is surprised and cannot believe that Jin is not from the security service, and Jin asks him if he has ever heard of martial arts. Kim explains to the man that Jin is just their friend who suffered a little head injury. Jin immediately begins to find out from Kim, what does it mean to hurt your head, and why doesn't Kim believe him? And Kim figures out how he is supposed to believe that his friend is from the Ming dynasty. And then Jin shouts that he needs to be trusted because he made the gate. He doesn't understand anything at all, and his head is spinning from what this guy tells him. He makes such a face that Jin wonders what's wrong with his comrade's face. Okay, Jin agrees, let's leave it at that, and turns to a man from the crowd. Hey you. Obeying Jin's cry, the man comes out. The genie tells him to stay and protect people. The man cannot understand why he should do this. Jin says that the man heard everything he told him and understood everything, because he is the only awakened one here. The crowd parts and people look in amazement at a man who is no different from them. How did you know? The man's face instantly changes. Jin replies that he feels the energy that passes through the man's entire body and sees everything with his own eyes. The man says that Jin is even more interesting than he seems, and it's absolutely true that he is an awakened one named Kang Saerin. He is Chinese, and according to the UN treaty, he cannot interfere in the affairs of other countries' gates. Jin tells Kan that if he tells him to do something, he must do it. The man is not going to obey. Then Jin puts his hand on his shoulder. His hand is filled with strength. He laughs and says that are some prohibitions more valuable than your own safety. Jin tells Kang that from now on he is the leader, and Kang notes what a strong hand lay on his shoulder. Kan thinks that the world is huge, and there are many strong people in it. But how many of them are capable of walking into the Nuka tribe alone, killing hundreds as if on a random walk? He looks at Jin and sees that his rating is compared with the rating of the strongest players. Kan does not understand how no one knew about him until now. He asks himself, could it be a top-rank player who has changed his appearance? Kan says that if no one else awakens, he will become the leader. Jin leaves with the words that since he will soon participate in a big battle, let Kan keep an eye on everyone so that no one gets lost. Kan shouts after him that gates of Yaranga, or higher, do not receive aggro starting from the second day. But Jin doesn't understand what we're talking about at all. Kan remains and cannot understand whether Jin really knows nothing. A flying messenger appears in the sky and is about to convey information about the gate. The first letter means the strength of the monster that appears at the gate. If the rank of the monster was a little lower, then many would be able to awaken if it was defeated. The number in the middle indicates the sequence of 3 missions: defense, attack, and raid point number 1 is a defensive mission. The last symbol indicates the average numbers of the total number of participants. The smaller the total number of participants, the higher the difficulty of the task. They are divided into easy, medium, and difficult. If it is the letter C, then the difficulty is average in relation to the number of participants. Jin is very bored listening to these stories. He roughly understood what was going on and yawns. Kan cannot understand whether Jin really does not know what he is talking about or is just pretending. What is your name? He asks, and Jin answers that his name is Wang Hu. Kan explains that today is the first day, so aggro is aimed at Van Hu Point, but tomorrow it will attack people, and then no one can escape the battle. Kang says that he will lead, but Wang Hu must deal with the monsters as quickly as possible. Jin replies that it is impossible to think of a better option. Jin is wondering how many monsters do you need to kill to win and increase level 3 or more. But for each monster, this meaning is different. Kim wonders why Jin is asking this when everything has already been explained very well. Kang asks why Jin keeps asking such questions. Does he really not know, or is there another reason? I am awakened, says a man from the crowd. How difficult is it to get a D grade? Kan replies that it is very difficult. Kan continues to think that even 2 awakened ones are completely impossible to clear this gate. Even if this young man shows great strength and passes the gate, there is a very high probability that most of the civilians will die. Meanwhile, Kim shows Jin how to find food in the system. The news is broadcast on TV, and the announcer says that 5 days have passed since the incident occurred at the train station in Seoul, the current logistics center in Asia. Scientists predicted the appearance of gates. The gates that appeared this time are the world's first non-rank gates. Experts claim that according to the security service statement, the gate at Seoul Station is classified as D rank, and all participants there are civilians. The presenter asks, how many participants are in the gate? The specialist replies that due to the significant number of homeless people who lived at the station, The exact number of participants has not been determined. However, the estimated number is from 200 to 230 people. People watch the news, in which the presenter again asks the question, was there at least one awakened among the selected participants? Unfortunately, this is the answer. The probability of passing the gate seems significantly low. Within the next 48 hours, if these people do not complete the mission, the gate explodes. The security director asks how the evacuation of objects within a radius of 2 kilometers from the gate location is going. Evacuation within a 1 kilometer radius has been completed, but people within a 2 kilometers radius refuse to evacuate. Since the evidence shows that explosions within a radius of more than 1 kilometer are very rare, the director interrupts the report and says that all this is driving him crazy. People's lives are at stake, and the higher authorities are not helping in any way. The director tells his deputy that the journalists should come to him in the next 2 hours. If you start sending faxes, emails, and phone calls right in front of them, the press will write articles about corporate ignorance about gate security. The director asks whether the identities of the homeless people who lived at Seoul Station have been established, and is it true that Captain Kim In-chan also entered the gate? Also, Kim In-chan, a retired army officer, is 43 years old. Captain Kim In-chan was a senior officer from the same army unit as the director of security. Because of his sense of justice and the fact that he could not tolerate injustice, he was fired. But all army veterans respect him very much. The director says that it would be very good if Kim could lead people and clear the gate. The deputy says there is no information about the man who was wearing strange clothes and was near Captain Kim. The deputy thought that this clothes would help find this man who appeared as if from nowhere. The CCTV camera does not show his face, which in itself is suspicious, and there are various other questionable aspects. The director says there is no way to know since everyone connected to the incident went through the gate. Everyone needs to wait 2 days before the gate opens. The director suggests that perhaps all the people inside are already dead. As time passes, there are reports that there are 25 minutes left before the gates close. For security reasons, reporters are evacuating and will continue broadcasting through high-precision cameras that are installed around and inside Seoul Station. Reporters ask all citizens to join them in prayer for a miracle. Social networks are actively discussing the events. There are only 5 minutes left before the gates close. Reporter starts counting 4, 3, 2, 1. The gate emits a huge amount of blue energy. The security director is surprised to see that the gate did not explode. How can it be that unprepared people can pass through the gate of rank D? On the live broadcast, viewers discuss the exit of a large group of people from the gate. Kan carries Captain Kim on his shoulders and thinks that Wang-hoo almost single-handedly defeated all the monsters, and then suddenly disappeared when leaving the gate. This is definitely not a dream, Kan thinks when he leaves the gate. A helicopter flies over the city, and someone makes a surprised exclamation of wow. Genie walks through the streets, looks at the helicopter. He doesn't understand how this can even exist. Kang Saren said that clearing the gate was a miracle. The genie managed to quickly get rid of tedious tasks, but now he doesn't know what to do next. He thinks about taking the time to earn some money and treat himself to something like flying in this wonderful flying car. And then he sees a figure ahead that seems very familiar to him. Is it really Sangrim? The man turns around at the sound of his name and asks, who is calling him? Jin is very happy that he met Sangrim, and Sangrim is very surprised that he met the leader of the sect here. Jin says that it is him, and how glad he is to unexpectedly see his friend here. But he does not have time to finish the sentence as Sangrim quickly runs away. How dare you run away after looking at me? Jin shouts angrily and adds that now his friend is dead. He looks after the fleeing Sangrim and realizes that he looks like an ordinary person who is generally unprepared for martial arts. In the past, if Sangrim tried to escape, it took a lot of force to catch him. Jin thinks that maybe this is not Sangrim, because although the faces are similar, the figure and stomach are completely different. Sangrim runs and looks around to see if the sect leader is following him, and Jin is already standing in his way. Sangrim did not expect this at all and began to stumble. Do you continue to practice martial arts? Asks Sangrim. How did you not lose your inner strength? Jin asks his friend how it is that he recognized him and still ran away. And Sangrim does not believe that in front of him is really the leader of the sect. He is thinking about what he should do, because if he continues to run like this, he will die. In the middle of the street, he falls to his knees, begins to bang his head on the pavement and shouts that the heavenly demon lord should rule the world. People gather around and think that they are filming a video for social networks, or with a hidden camera. Sangri himself is uncomfortable bowing on the street at that age. He tries to get up from his knees but fails, because the sect master's inner strength is putting pressure on his body. This requires at least a basic understanding of the principles involved. Sangrim asks to at least go to another place, where it is quieter and you can talk calmly. They took a seat in the cafe and are preparing to talk. He has been here for 22 years, and they have flown by very quickly. He almost forgot the Central Plains, but he cannot forget the face of the sect leader. The last time he saw the leader, he looked about 30 years old, and now he looks like a teenager. Jin demands that Sangrim give him good reasons for his behavior, otherwise he will die right here today. Sangrim replies that he is frightened by these remarks of his leader. He hurries to come up with a plausible explanation and says that he thought he saw just an illusion. After such a long time, he saw the figure of his leader one day. But when he extended his hands, the leader disappeared like a point of smoke. It was an illusion. He was experiencing the stress of not being able to return to his hometown, and the sect leader, the symbolic figure that represented his home, appeared and disappeared. His psychologist said that escape is the first step on the path to recovery, and since then, whenever he encountered a phantom, he did not pay attention to it and ran away. Jin listened silently to Sangrim, and Sangrim was glad that his story made an impression. He continued that it had been quite a long time since he last saw the phantom, and now he was having a hard time. Jin thought that he quickly learned the language using Mulder's method, but Sangrim had no such experience. If you wander around the country for several years without knowing the language or having friends, you can get seriously ill. Moreover, the loss of martial arts skills contributes to a breakdown in mental stability. Jin continues to think that the current Sangrim is completely empty, like a deserted field. The waiter approaches them and offers to place an order. Jin doesn't understand what place he ended up in, and Sangrim says that this is a cafe and you can eat here. Sangrim asks Jin how he knows Korean so well, and Jin reminds him of Mulder's method. The waiter waits for the visitors to place an order, and Sangrim suggests ordering drinks first, and then deciding on food. The genie looks at the menu. The name doesn't tell him anything, and he decides to order the top item on the menu. He thinks that the best dish is always written first. They bring him a cup of espresso. Sangrim asks if Jin has ever tried espresso, and Jin doesn't understand what's in front of him. Sangrim is very interested in how to make his leader like coffee. The genie sings from his cup but doesn't react at all. Sangrim is surprised because the first time you try coffee, you usually feel a bitter taste. And then a voice is heard in his head. It is Jin who has a telepathic connection with him. Jin tells Sangri not to say anything to him, but only to listen. Jin says there is poison in the cup and someone poisoned the drink. Jin continues to say, pointing to the Coca-Cola that Sangrim ordered, that there is poison in his glass, and that he should under no circumstances drink it. Sangrim sits and cannot utter a word in amazement, and Jin demands that he blink twice if he is poisoned and cannot move. Finally, Sangrim sighs with relief and says that this is not poison. This is exactly what drinks should taste like. Jin insists that for a moment after the first sip, his heart began to beat faster. Sangrim explains that this is just the effects of caffeine. Finally, Sangrim asks the genie if he has a place to stay in this city. Of course, answers Jin. And to the question where, points finger at Sangrim. Sangrim is horrified by the thought that his leader wants to live with him. He shouts that this is impossible, and that he himself will find a house where Gin will be comfortable. Jin laughs and says, why is he uncomfortable living alone when he can live wonderfully with a subordinate? Sangrim begs the leader to change his mind. Jin laughs in response and says that then Mystery will follow his subordinate and enter his house, and no one can stop him. Sangrim thinks that he is doomed to never be saved, because he doesn't know how his wife and daughter will react to the fact that he brings a boy from the other side into the house. He says out loud that he was very glad to meet his leader. The next morning, a young girl sits in a school classroom looking out the window. She thinks about how the D-rank brothers purified themselves without awakened people. Her classmates are discussing the same topic and say that there were 40 people who died, and they heard that there was an undisclosed awakened being of a high level. The girl thinks that maybe this player acquired an unusual runic defense or skill that helped him. She cannot imagine what kind of high-level awakened creature this is. The minister of the Awakened Management Department is outraged by the current state of affairs. He says that UN policy states that awakening people are considered associated with the country in which they are awakening. Why is it necessary to hide the identities of awakened people? Is the security service trying to monopolize the awakened? He demands an explanation from Director Khan. All the people who came out of the gate said that a mentally ill boy defeated thousands of monsters alone, and others said that there was a Chinese awakened one, but he did not participate in the battles. From the second day, monsters attacked people constantly and people also fought, but the unknown boy fought more than anyone and killed almost all the monsters. Director Han thinks that since this boy did most of the work, only 22 people managed to take advantage of the opportunity and awaken. Among the 178 survivors who escaped from the D-rank gate, 156 are ordinary civilians. There is a high chance of facing international condemnation if the facts are disseminated in this way. It is suspected that the gate security is deceiving the public by portraying the awakened people as ordinary civilians. The director of the security service continues to think that the existence of a boy named Van Her is incredible, and the awakened Chinese are the only ones who can believe their location. All issues will be resolved only when Captain Kim Enchan wakes up. At this time, Jin Yusung and Sangrim continue to sit in the cafe and asks what happened to the Ming Empire when Jin left it. Jin replies that they will figure it out themselves, and Sangrin is surprised that Jin left the empire without saying a word. If the sect master suddenly leaves like that, then the rest of the people will remain confused. A voice is heard in Sangrim's head that says that everyone has died except Jin Yusung. Sangrin doesn't understand how this happened. Was there really a war? Or an epidemic? Jin replies that there was no war or plague. Everyone lived a good life and then died. He reminds Sangrim that he lived another 90 years just after he left, and everyone who lived with them in the same era simply left. One by one, their sons and grandchildren remained nearby. But it was all different and not the same as before. Descendants considered him a deity. Sangrim understands that he is the only one who remained next to the sect leader, and only 22 years have passed for him. She says that although more than 90 years have passed, the master looks very good and has become much younger. Finally, their conversation becomes lively. They remember the past. Sangrim asks the sect leader retained his powers that he had when he ruled the Central Plains. Jin says that this is a long story, and he has partially lost his strength, but they are already returning, period. With these words, he creates a small ball of energy in his palm. Sangrim completely lost his strength. What remained was scattered throughout his body, and now he lives like an ordinary person. He asks Jin if there is a chance that he will be able to improve his skills again, and Jin thinks that it is quite possible. But in this city, the energy is very muddy, and it is unprofitable to cultivate it. Jin suggests finding a quiet and clean place and accumulating energy there, and when enough energy has accumulated, Jin will help filter it. Sangrim is very happy about this, and the same Jin reports that he will live at Sangrim's house. Sangrim asks Jin if the sect master ever met a strange person inside the palace of the heavenly god. Sangrim continued that it was like a misty dream, so he remembers it vaguely, but he met someone and all he remembers is that his skills were taken away. Jin says that he also met this guy, but strangely enough forgot about it. But Jin continues that all his power was not taken away from him, but that he used it during the showdown with this guy. However, many of his skills were not restored after the battle. Sangrim can't believe that Jin Husin also fought against this guy. He says that of course he was weaker compared to the sect master, but he was an experienced martial artist who only had a few rivals in the Central Plains. And his opponent effortlessly drained his fighting spirit as if it were mere breath. Several times it occurred to Sangrin that he was fighting with God. Jin didn't think so because God couldn't lose to him in battle. Jin remembers that his opponent was draining his skills, so he had to fight him to the death. He had the feeling that he had been struggling for a whole month without eating or sleeping, and he definitely won. That's what his opponent told him. He said that if you kill me, you will go into the eternal depths of the underworld. And then he asked if Jean Husong was planning to die with him. To this, he answered that complex issues need to be solved step by step, but for now he will start by killing his opponent. The enemy asked him if this was his real intention, and also asked, "Is that why I lost?" Then Jin Yusung thought that his opponent was not emanating any emotions. It seemed like he was just conveying information. In this case, he thought there was a high probability that the guy was telling the truth. What he heard most likely was not said by chance. He remembered the prophecy. This space of loss can only be passed through by losing the most precious part of oneself. You are given a choice. Lose yourself, and 10% of nothing. It sucks. Like yes. Or lose 90% of nothing, and 10% of yourself. Then he decided that this was just empty chatter, and had absolutely nothing to do with him. Then the prophecy sounded. The first ones who pass will save themselves completely. I'll see if you can close the door. Jin says that he doesn't remember the details, and can only tell everything very fragmentarily. He remembers that his Inmel sword then disappeared and the genie wondered where it went. Inmeal sword, a divine sword symbolizing all who are heavenly demons. The sword itself is not related to the effect of the heavenly demons, but Jin Yusung, who led the survival corps, received it when he absorbed the remnants of the demon school. The most remarkable trophy was this sword. Jin regrets the loss of the sword because it was the only sword in the world. And now Jin cannot use the energy of the sword because there is no sword nearby. Sangrim says that in the end, the sect master lost 90% of his sword energy and internal energy. And what constitutes another 10%? Jin replies that his internal energy is almost completely exhausted. The two of them need to restore their energy, and Jin asks what will Sangrim use it for when he restores it. Sangrim answers that the first thing he will do is grow his hair. Because with age he began to go bald, he really hopes that with the return of energy, his hair will also grow. Sangrim asks how the sect leader restored his energy, and the sect leader looks in horror at his comrade's bald head. When he defeated the monsters at the gates of Seoul Station, they rewarded him with internal energy. Sangrim asks, "What does this mean that the sect master has cleared the Seoul Station?" Jin replies that he did this to increase the level of internal energy. Sangri says that the first thing you need to do is go shopping at the store. What will they buy? Jean Husson is interested. You need to buy new clothes. Sangrim answers and asks if Jean Husson called himself by his real name. Jim replies that he introduced himself as one who. Sangrim understands that before the government or the security service tracks down the sect master, they need to escape very quickly. But he does not notice the camera that captures their faces. Awakened. These are people with special powers and physical abilities that exceed the average person. They are the chosen ones who fight evil. Therefore, the awakened ones are a valuable human resource, and the government and companies, such as the security service, provide them with numerous advantages and comfortable means of living. However, this only applies to awakened ones who comply with the rules and regulations of the government and security services. Jean Husson is a good person, but this does not mean that he will obey anyone. He asks why he should join the security service. He doesn't want it at all. If the awakened one does not cooperate with the security service, then it tries to hire them secretly. Jin is outraged that he is being pestered by those who have never been in battle. What happens when Jean Husson, a man who didn't follow anyone's rules, meets the always controlling security service? Guild members become badly beaten. Director Han is thinking about putting pressure on Jin's relatives. Will he be able to resist this? And which of Jin's relatives should he put pressure on? Sangrim said that he is the only person who must protect his leader and his family while the leader was getting dressed in the fitting room. Jin noted that the clothes in this world are made of very interesting material. Seeing several boxes in Sangrim's hands, he thought that this was also for him. But Sangrim explained that this was what his daughter asked for. Jin asks what her daughter's name is, and Sangrim says her name is San Soyoung. Jin imagines his daughter looks like her dad, but Sangrim says that his daughter is very beautiful, and people around say that she looks like Miss Korea. Jin replies that he is proud of Sangrim, who lost his martial arts, found himself in a land where no one understood him, but was able to start a family and live a decent life. He asks if his friend has a job now. Sangrim says that he is the president of a large construction company and works very hard. Jean Husson understands that if he has a comrade president, then he has money. Sangrim replies that he has no shortage of money and asks what Jin wants to buy. Jin says he needs a computer. Some time ago in a cafe where Sangrim and Jean Husson went, the waiter notices that smoke is coming from his boss's laptop. The boss reports that he is aware. The boss can't understand why the laptop caught fire. The waiter says that there was also a stain on the table, and the boss decides that it's all because of the gate at the Seoul Station. Sangrin argues that the genie does not need a computer, but a smartphone, and promises to buy it. Jean also asks for vodka and beer A, which he tried at the station. Sangrim laughs and says that he will buy his leader as much vodka and beer as he wants. Then Jin asks for another favor, and Sangrim agrees to buy him whatever he asks for. Jin points to a flying helicopter, and says that he wants Sangri to buy it for him. Sangrim hopes that his friend is talking about a model helicopter, and offers to go up to the department store. But Jin assures that he needs a real helicopter. Sangrim says that the helicopter is too expensive, and Jin begins to get very angry. He is outraged that Sangrim wants to break his promise. Sangrim promises that he will buy a helicopter later. In the meantime, they decide to go home, and Jin wants Sangrim to tell him about his life. Sangrim promises that someday he will definitely tell you. But for now you need to come up with a story. Why will an unfamiliar young man settle in his house? They drive up to Sangrim's house, and Jin is surprised by the kind of house his subordinate has. He says that if Sangrim has money, then why does he have such a small house? Sangrim indignantly declares that houses of this size are considered huge, and there is no need to compare it with a palace in the kingdom of Min. Jin doesn't understand why his former subordinate is so angry. He says that there is no shame in having a small house. You just need to try to earn more money. Point Sangrim gets even more angry. Finally, he pulls himself together and invites Jin to come inside, but asks to respect the chain of command and speak to everyone respectfully. The garden seems a little cramped to the genie, but it's still very nice. On the threshold, they are met by Sangrim's wife, Yoo Hee-young, who notices that her husband has brought a guest. Sangrim says this is his nephew. and Jin Yunseo falls to his knees and tells his aunt that he is pleased to meet her. Sangrim is horrified by Jin's behavior. His wife is also very surprised. Sangrim says that now their nephew will live with them. The wife agrees and says that there are no problems. She says that she cannot turn away from her husband's blood relative. Sangrim feels freed from stress and feels good. Sangrim's wife sees the genie in the house and says that he needs to tell his cousin that her cousin will live in their house. Sangrim thinks that he is very lucky to have such an understanding wife. "Thank you, dear, I will be a wonderful husband," he says mentally. His wife at this time thinks about it. Does her husband really think she's so naive and she'll believe all this lies? How cute it is.